Hi, in this video I'm going to cover how to set up Linux running in WSL as an SSH server that you can SSH into. The agenda is what is WSL, what is SSH, why would you need to SSH to Linux running in WSL, and how would you SSH using password, and then how would you SSH using the SSH keys. Now, what is WSL? WSL stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux. It lets you run Linux directly inside Windows, which makes it easy to use Linux tools, scripts, and to set up development environment without there being a need of independent OS installation or dual booting your system just for basic tasks. What is SSH? SSH stands for Secure Shell. It lets you securely access and control a remote computer through a command line interface with all communication protected by encryption. Developers and system administrators use SSH to log into remote servers, run commands, and transfer files securely over the internet. The remote server, in our case, you will have to imagine the Linux running in WSL as the remote server that you are going to connect to. Why would you need to SSH into Linux running in WSL? One reason you might SSH into Linux running in WSL is for training purposes. I am doing it to safely teach graduates how to SSH into a Linux machine without giving them access to a real development server. Now coming to SSH to Linux running in WSL using password. So let's start Ubuntu. First, what we have to do is we will run update, apt update, and then install the OpenSSH server. This is required, or this is what we will use to run the SSH server that we will then connect. So you can see here, it is saying that we are creating, that the program created a config file for SSH at this location, which is what we have in our notes here. Basically, we can either use VI or Nano to edit it. We want it to run on port 2222. Sometime port 22 is already used, so this is just to avoid any conflicts. And we want the utility to bind to all available network interfaces. So that is what listen address on 0.0.0.0 does. We also want to enable password authentication. And as you can see, it says for changes to take effect, run these two commands. We will reload the daemon and we will restart the SSH socket. So let's exit, save. Now, as you can see, I got the error here because this file requires admin privileges, so to say. So what we'll do is we will exit and we will do it again, but using sudo this time. Okay, we went through. Now, if you remember these two commands that are required for changes to take effect, so we're going to run them one by one. So I'm doing a select, Control C, and then I'm doing a shift insert to paste here. Okay. Now I'll move this to the side and we will open git bash here. So now I will say ssh port test @ localhost, accept it, password, and I am logged in using credentials. Now let's move on to logging using keys. Now to log in using keys, we first have to generate them. We will get a public and a private key. Then we will copy the public key onto the server authorized keys file in .ssh folder. .ssh. Then we create the authorized key file. We paste the public key there, and then use the private key to log into the server. So the key generation will happen on the local computer, which is this case will be via my git bash. So we do keygen, yes. You should secure the key with a password. Uh, this helps in case if someone gets hold of it, they won't be able to use it. But for now, I'm just pressing enter. Now it says it has created the public key and the private key. So I need the contents of public key. We'll say cat content. So this is the content of the public key. Now we have to put this public key in authorized keys. So we go to the home directory, we say ls-lrta. Currently the ssh folder is not there. So we make the ssh folder. Then we go in the ssh folder and then we will create the authorized keys file. Now here we will add the content and exit. Now if I say we have this, if I go back, it looks like this. So now if I were to say I want to SSH using the key file, and this will be the private key now, to port 2222 user test at localhost. This should log me in without asking for credentials. To continue, and I am in. So now before we go to this section, um, let's talk about what we did here. After enabling the SSH using the public private pair by adding public key to authorized keys, we used this key by providing it using the -i parameter. Now let's say if you want to automatically pass this key without the -i operator, what you would do is first check git bash or on the local computer. If the agent is running, you will get something like this. And then what you can do is you can add the key that we used here using ssh add. which should say identity added. Now, once this is added, you no longer have to pass either password or the key. And if you say you want to connect to the remote server, which in this case is the Linux running on WSL, you simply press enter and SSH will automatically pass the key, which then removes the need for you to supply it using -i or supply the password. Now to verify if my login is actually on to this Linux running in WSL, what we can do is we can say ps-ef and you will see an entry here, which is the SSH entry, SSHD session, where the user test is logged in to PTS2. Now, if I were to type exit here and then run PS again, you will see that the SSH entry is gone. Just the listener is running. The session entry is gone. So if I say clear, see it's just SSHD. So now let's do clear again. Clear, login again. Yes, you'll see there is a session entry here, which means there is a login using SSH to this box. I hope this helped. Thank you for watching.